The air inside the real-time with Bill Maher studio was electric. That mix of nerves and caffeine-fueled excitement that always preceded a live taping. The audience had already filled the seats, laughing, murmuring, waiting for that familiar theme music to hit. Tonight, the atmosphere felt thicker than usual, almost charged. The reason was clear. The guest list had sparked days of online chatter. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was scheduled to join Bill, and everyone knew sparks were likely to fly. Bill Maher stood near his desk, flipping through cue cards, wearing that half grin that had become his trademark. He'd handled presidents, actors, activists, but Jasmine was different. She wasn't one to back down, and that made her ratings gold. As the floor manager called for quiet, Bill glanced at the producers through the glass. "Keep it rolling," he said casually, tucking the cards away. "Let's give them a show." The music hit. The crowd erupted in cheers as the camera swept across the stage. "Welcome back to Real Time, folks," Bill's voice rang out. "We've got a packed night, and joining me now, straight from Texas, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett." Applause thundered as Jasmine stepped out from behind the curtain, calm and poised. She waved, smiled at the audience, and made her way toward the stage. Her tailored navy suit caught the lights, her heels clicked with steady confidence, and her expression was that perfect mix of grace and readiness, the look of someone who'd weathered storms and wasn't afraid of another. Bill extended his hand. "Congresswoman, welcome." "Thanks for having me, Bill," she said warmly, shaking it. He gestured for her to sit. "I've been watching you. You don't mince words, do you?" She laughed softly. "I could say the same about you." The audience chuckled, sensing the energy already. Bill leaned back, resting an elbow on his desk. "All right, let's get into it. You've made a name for yourself calling out what you see as hypocrisy in politics, but some people, even on your side, say your tone's too confrontational. That you're pushing moderates away." Jasmine smiled, tilting her head slightly. "My tone?" "Yeah," Bill said, shrugging. "You come across like you're angry all the time." The audience gave a small murmur, waiting for her response. Jasmine didn't blink. "Bill, I'm not angry," she said evenly. "I'm just not quiet. There's a difference. I don't have the luxury of pretending things are fine when they're not. Maybe that sounds angry to people who aren't used to hearing the truth loud and clear." Applause filled the room. Bill grinned, but there was tension behind it. "See, that's what I'm talking about. You call it truth. Others call it divisive. You've said things that make even Democrats uncomfortable." "Then maybe they should get comfortable with accountability," Jasmine shot back without missing a beat. That earned her a wave of cheers. Bill chuckled, trying to play it cool. "All right, but do you really think yelling at people changes minds? Because I've always said the left needs to stop screaming and start persuading." "Bill," she said, voice calm but firm, "you've got a microphone every week. You can joke, you can rant, you can even be wrong, and people call it comedy. But when I raise my voice about injustice, it's called yelling. See the difference?" That landed hard. The crowd reacted instantly. Applause, whistles, the kind of reaction that made live TV producers grin and hosts tense. Bill lifted a hand. Hold on. You're comparing stand-up to politics?" "No," Jasmine said, leaning forward. "I'm comparing privilege to reality. You joke about politics. I live with its consequences." The applause grew louder. Even Bill's smile wavered. He crossed his arms, trying to steer it back to safe territory. "Look, I get your passion. Really, I do. But doesn't the left go too far sometimes? The whole cancel culture thing? It's like you can't even tell jokes anymore without someone crying foul." A ripple of laughter came from a few audience members, but Jasmine didn't join in. She gave a small, almost sympathetic smile. "Bill, you've been saying that for years, but here you are, still on air, still making millions, still saying whatever you want. If the left was," he leaned forward, tapping his pen. "So no middle ground? No room for nuance?" "There's always nuance," Jasmine said. "But not when we're talking about rights. There's no polite way to tell people their voice doesn't matter." When the show came back from the commercial break, the atmosphere inside the Real Time with Bill Maher studio had changed. What had started as a spirited debate was now something else entirely. An electric, tense silence hung between Bill and Jasmine. The audience sensed it. They sat straighter, their eyes darting between the two, waiting to see who would blink first. Bill smiled at the camera, but it was tighter this time, a smile that looked more like effort than ease. "All right," he began, his voice carrying that practiced confidence. "We're back with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Clearly this conversation's got some heat, but hey, that's what real talk looks like, right?" The audience chuckled lightly, unsure whether to laugh or brace themselves. Jasmine smiled faintly, her posture relaxed, her tone calm. "It's not heat, Bill, it's honesty. Sometimes those feel the same when you're not used to one." A few audience members clapped. Others murmured. Bill's eyebrows twitched, just slightly, but he recovered quickly. "I appreciate honesty. That's what I do here," he said, leaning forward. "I just think maybe the left, your wing especially, confuses passion with progress. You can yell, you can demand, but at the end of the day, politics is persuasion, and persuasion takes charm." Jasmine leaned forward too, folding her hands neatly on the desk between them. "Bill, people have been charming their way around justice for generations. It's time to stop sugarcoating problems and start fixing them." That line hit with precision. The audience applauded again, louder now, feeding on her composure. Bill nodded slowly, forcing a smirk. "Sure, but come on, the outrage machine can't fix everything. The left eats itself alive. People are scared to talk because they'll be labeled racist, sexist, transphobic. Pick one." Jasmine's expression stayed cool. "Bill, you keep calling it the outrage machine, but what you really mean is accountability. People who were never held responsible for their words before are finally being challenged. That's not cancellation. That's consequence." A ripple of applause rolled through the studio. Bill's grin wavered. But where does it end? Should comedians be scared to joke? Should politicians walk on eggshells every time they open their mouths? "Maybe they should think before they open them," Jasmine replied smoothly. "If your joke depends on someone else's pain, it's not funny, it's lazy." The crowd roared again. Even a few camera operators nodded slightly behind their lenses. Bill leaned back, tapping his pen against the desk. "You sound like someone who wants to control speech." "No," she said, shaking her head. "I want people to understand speech has power. You don't get to use your platform to punch down and then act shocked when people punch back." Bill's jaw tightened, and his usual cool demeanor started to slip. "You see, this is what drives people away from your side. The moral superiority, the constant lecturing, it's exhausting." Jasmine smiled, a soft, disarming curve of her lips. "You think asking for respect is exhausting? Try living without it." That stopped him cold. The audience erupted in applause so loud that the floor manager had to wave for quiet. Bill waited it out, chuckling under his breath, though it sounded more like irritation than amusement. "Okay, you've got the crowd," he said, pointing a finger in mock defeat. "But this isn't Twitter. This is real life. The world isn't black and white. It's complicated." "Of course it's complicated," Jasmine said. "But complexity isn't an excuse for complacency. You love to talk about nuance, but sometimes nuance is just privilege wearing a thoughtful face." The crowd gasped, a mix of awe and disbelief. Bill blinked hard, visibly surprised. "Wow," he said after a long pause. "Privilege wearing a thoughtful face. That's poetic." "It's real," she replied, unflinching, "and it's exactly why we're in this mess. People with influence talk like they're rebels, but they're protecting the system. You get to challenge the edges of power because you're part of it. Meanwhile, the rest of us are fighting to be heard in the first place." There was a stillness in the room now. No laughter, no side conversations, just the hum of studio lights and the quiet weight of her words. Bill broke the silence first. "You think I'm protecting the system?" he asked, half incredulous, half defensive. "I think you're comfortable in it," Jasmine said softly. "And comfort makes people forget the fire they once had." The audience murmured in agreement. Bill sat back, crossing his arms. "I'm not comfortable, Congresswoman." "I'm realistic." Jasmine tilted her head. then your realism has a blind spot. The crowd reacted again, louder this time, energized by every exchange. Bill's attempt to steer the conversation toward humor had long failed. Jasmine had taken control of the tempo, and now he was reacting instead of leading. "All right," Bill said, laughing tightly. "So what's the solution?" "You've pointed out everything that's wrong, and tell me what's right." "Why,